Hello, everyone. My name is Chet Grant. I am a regional captain here in Michigan. I'm here tonight with our regional team to share with you and examine why we think there needs to be a convention of states in the first place. We'll talk about what's pushing it, what we think needs to be done, what convention of states is, what Article 5 is, what you can do to help us move this thing along. So this will be the first of 3 videos that we'll be sharing with you over the next few days. So Mike Mallon, you want to share with us what gets us going here?
Right. So debt and spending, as everybody knows, is out of control. We're up to, I think, 37 trillion. And when you get to federal over, that's mostly, in my opinion, it's that fourth branch of government that we've totally lost control over. And USAID is a great example of where money's going that shouldn't be going. And the career politicians, well, they all benefit from this. That's why you see them staying as long as possible to work their way up to the ladder and give more power, because they can float money to their friends, and their friends in turn will give them favors.
Okay, so when we go from that, of course, we go to the first of our 3 points where we would want to propose amendments.
So here's Nancy Pelosi, career politician, 38 years, worked her way all the way up to speaker several times with a tremendous amount of power. And her payback was all sorts of insider trading that her and her husband have benefited from. Senator Mitch McConnell is tight with the Chinese people, Chinese government, and has made a lot of money off them between him and his wife. Chuck Schumer is the same kind of thing. Big man in New York, worked his way up the ladder, granting all sorts of favors. And Chuck Grassley, 44 years. That's just too long. There's many good people in this country that could take those positions and do much more for the American people rather than these politicians that seem to do everything for themselves.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts on this whole career politician thing?
Yeah, I know. Well, I guess the one thing to mention is that the people that are selected just shows the bipartisan nature of convention of states. We're all about fixing things for the Constitution to get the country back in shape, and we're really not partisan.
It's a great point, Chuck. Very good point.
Yeah, I'd like to add that term limits brings about new ideas and fresh perspectives, along with more diversity and youth into government offices.
Sure. Fresh perspective is something we could certainly use. All right, well, let's go on to the next here. And Kelly, you want to share your thoughts on, the debt and what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chet. So what we can see here from one of the major issues, one of the pillar items that Convention of States wishes to address as far as constitutional amendments is that we would like to be able to see some sort of constitutional amendment or multiple constitutional amendments helping to rein in the national debt and federal spending. By reining in federal spending, hopefully being able to rein in some of that national debt. As you can see, and as what Mike actually just pointed out just a minute ago as well, the current national debt is $37 trillion as of just a couple of months ago, or even 1 month ago. And one of the most interesting parts to me that you can see from this graph is that you see just as much red as you do blue, kind of speaking once again to Chuck's point a minute ago of the kind of bipartisan nature of Convention of States, is that you can see that there is just as much spending from Republicans as there is from Democrats and vice versa. So this is across the board. Spending is a huge problem, and it is something that Convention of States would like to see addressed in the form of a constitutional amendment.
Right. Money is certainly a problem here. And
it wasn't too long ago. It wasn't too long ago that we were all thinking of $1 million was a lot of money, and then not too long after that, $1 billion was a lot of money. Well, $1 trillion is a lot of money.
Yes, it is. They seem to think it's nothing. It's when you study the banking system, the banks don't make money unless there's debt. So you got that working too. All right. So
know about the Powerball and the lottery. What are they up to? 813 million. So that's out of, you get up to 1,000 billion, then you're up to $1 trillion. And that's a tremendous amount of debt.
Yes, it is. All right, let's move on here. So, this just speaks to the excessive growth in our federal government, most of which has occurred in the executive branch. It's just astounding to me the millions of people that work in our federal government, most of whom are lodged in the executive branch. And those agencies, the alphabet soup agencies, really don't report to, or they're not held accountable to much of anyone. They make all these rules and regulations every session, and it's just overburdensome of the cost and the inefficiencies that they create for those of us as citizens. But it's probably the government and the executive branch alone is probably one of the largest employers in the world, if not certainly in the country here. So again, another example of, and we'll touch on going forward, what has enabled this tremendous growth. I'm sure our framers have not at all figured that this is something that we would have in place of the federal government. It's way bigger than anything they would have ever imagined. So Rick, let's talk a little bit about Article 5.
All right, from what we've been talked about earlier here in our presentation, you can see we have plenty of problems in this country, from term limits to the amount of money that the government owes, to just on and on and on. And thank goodness our founders were not dumb people. They were extremely smart. And they wrote into our Constitution, within something called Article 5, the ability for us to make changes to our current system. Most of the time, Article 5 has been used by Congress to have 2/3 of Congress vote to make a change. And you've seen it before, like with prohibition, and then the retracting of prohibition, and on, civil rights and other things that Congress has pushed through. Well, thank goodness, George Mason at the end of our convention talked about that they had missed something. They had missed the state's ability to be able to make changes. And so they put in Article 5. At the bottom of Article 5, it talks about the states needing 2/3 of the states, and they can propose to make changes. So we have the ability as states, and that's kind of what the Convention of States is about, to make changes to our federal government that really Washington can't deny. I mean, if the states come out there and we get 2/3 of the states to open up another convention, then we can make proposals like term limits and spending ceilings and so on and so forth. And that's really what Article 5 is about. It's about us and others within the states, and of course, Convention of States as a grassroots organization, to be able to go out and take advantage of Article 5 and say, hey, our country's broken in a lot of ways and we want to fix that. And so we're going to generate a proposal from the states without Washington having very much to do with it. And it still has to, and anything that comes out of a Convention of States would still have to go through getting approved by 3/4 of the states anyway, just like all the others do. So there's no shortcut there.
The other thing that's important is this method of passing a constitutional amendment has been around just as long as the one we all know about. We've just never used it. It's always been there. People don't understand it. You think this is something new and we're twisting the rules? No, we're not. We're using something that was always available to us. It's one of those break glass in case of emergency situations.
What I'd like to do is close this down, and we'll kind of lead into what's coming next. The next series will focus on what got us to the oversized government, the excessive regulations, keep people in office too long. So in session 2, we'll talk about how we got here and the things that happened that enabled this all to take place. So with that, we'll close down, and we'll see you next time.